bello culture. Abum Kukurea. Welcome everybody. Abum Kukure. I'm the shining blessing. My name is CHIMAOGE Nke ROM. Bumoge Onishi Kalakana. Given name CHIMAOGE. Government name CHIMAOGE Chijioke Ibe. Origin, matrilineage, VENMO Hafia, patrilineal reference point, Oji Urata, 2 villages in West Africa, look them up. Birthplace, Rom Nkenu. What is that? I was born in the area that is now referred to as Washington, D.C. I was born during Capricorn time, 28 years ago. Yes. Abumotu Melulo Miri. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Hand of God. Welcome to CHIMAOGE's Comments. Subset of Ozibenwuku. Yes. I want to note also my situation is urgent today because I'm out of food. I have snacks, but I don't have enough to say I have food. So yes, my body's under strain. Please patronize me with greater urgency than usual. Thank you very much. But I do want to get to the other goal today, which is to provide value to you here through the hand of God. The hand of God is where I refine myself and my talking points. Today I'm talking about something very simple, but something foreign to most people. The idea that justice is not traumatic. My ancestors are all here. May they strengthen. Let's go. This is a basic point, but it's not basic to many people because of abuse and crime. Justice is not traumatic. When justice is done, when nature is repaired after harm, and when it propagates itself, it's beautiful. It's not traumatic. But people get abused by criminals, and they think that abuse is justice. I want to first start with the practice of corporal punishment. That is never justice. There is no reason to kubu umaka hapu. First of all, we need to think of the situations in which children are being raised and have been raised in. You see, a lot of, and I'm absolving the children here, I'm talking about the parents, a lot of people create situations that don't make any sense. It takes joy and happiness to create a child. So how is a child born into a situation where they're the only child around? We have this concept of the only child, but I want to extend it further. What is this concept of, I don't know my cousins, I don't have any cousins? What is this concept of, there's only one baby on the block or whatever? What's going on? Because if there's joy, joy will spread. Ekwensu is not joyful. How is there just one bundle of joy in the area? And then we have situations where the parents who created the child soon after begin to fight, or worse one, and this is one I've seen a lot. I've seen many situations where a pregnant woman is not accompanied by the biological father of her child in public. What's happening? And I want to focus on the biological father. Why is there a roadrunner? And then there's the quiet roadrunner, the one who's always at work. This creates a situation where the child is being raised outside of nature. I hear of many situations, and I've seen them, where children get quote-unquote disciplined for running in the house. First of all, why are you raising a child in the house? You see, all people have to move, and all people must spend time among their peers. Children should be running outside with their peers. If you produce children in a situation and you have not brought them to their peers, that is already an abusive situation. You see, these same people will constantly lecture the child about how they're not their equal. If you really believe that, why are you staring them in the face so much? You see, your relationships with your child should not be hostile. If you're looking down on someone all the time, that is hostility. I want to be transparent here. I've not birthed children directly before myself, and that's something I'm not happy about, honestly. I'm 28 years old now, but I've taken care of children before. And you see, my goal is not to turn them into my peer or to become their peer. What does that mean? That is not my standard for them. My standard for the child is not, how does the child make me feel? My standard for the child is not, does the child, well, my standard for the child is not, does the child, and I actually can't articulate it. Let me dodge this point, because people are so twisted they won't know what I'm saying. Let me come in a different way. You see, I want a child to like the situation I've created. I also want a child to value my presence. So I look at it from that matter. But I don't go, okay, when I'm looking this child in the face to talk, because obviously I'm saying stuff up here, but let's get down to it. Obviously you have to look at someone sometimes. First, you have to greet the child now. A lot of people, see, there are a lot of people who emphasize greeting a lot, but they don't really greet their children. You see. So you have to greet your child, you have to talk to them, all that. But if the child is a little annoyed I'm talking to them, I don't look at that. When I was a child, I was annoyed when older people were talking to me too, because it interrupted my game. That's natural. It's fine. Why are you arguing with a 2-year-old? You don't even know who they're talking to. Even when children are among themselves, you don't know who they're talking to. A lot of people really want their child to become their peer and interact with them in a way that is pleasurable to both people. That's not possible. They're in a different stage of life. So obviously I'm bringing this up because of the phenomenon of corporal punishment. But before I go there, let's talk about discipline in general. People often try to discipline the child when the child is trying to break free. Why on earth did you birth your child in prison? And then there's the secondary problem, where people treat, and I'm just going to be crude here, people treat their child like a dog that must be walked. Oh, let's go outside for an hour and let the child run around by themselves. See, children are people. What person wants to just run around by themselves? Oh, he ran around, he's fine. Who was he talking to? Where were his peers? And then there's this other phenomenon where you don't take enough time to remember how old your child is. You see, the older you get, the less relevant age becomes. But the inverse of that is when a child is very small, age is very relevant. A 2-year-old and a 4-year-old are not peers. Your 2-year-old has to be with other 2-year-olds. And don't try and too much understand what they're doing between themselves. That's their stage. Just make sure that they're safe. And interact with them when necessary. But it's always necessary to interact with the child. Children want to interact with you. It's just, it will not be on peer-to-peer terms. So, when you've taken a child out of nature, and a third scenario, I'm not going to go into it too deeply, but I'm just going to throw my hand out. I just saw the number 1111. I think my ancestors are happy with me. Let's just wish that I get stronger. The third scenario is when a child is only among their blood relatives. That's not natural. Most of the people you interact with should not be related to you. Family is important, but you cannot only be among your family. And again, it is impossible. I mean, unless something really weird has happened, it is impossible for a child to be among their peers when they're only among their siblings. Okay, yes, you can have a twin, but come on. Again, if you had dectuplets, I mean, more power to you, but that group needs to see other people. So to then begin to discipline a child if they then protested the prison, that is an abomination. You just failed at parenting. You see, planning for parenting is part of being an adult. And I'm saying it like that because that's the best way for me to communicate it quickly. You see, you should already be in a happy situation yourself. The relationship that produced the child should be good. In order for that to happen, you should be interacting with other people who are in healthy relationships. And then multiple children should come into being from different families at once. And yes, also, family members should have children at similar times. So then children are born with a group, because we all have destiny in this world. And a big part of destiny is our attachment to our peers. So everyone has a group of people that was born at the same time as them. They have to be near these people. So if you quote unquote discipline a child for asking to be in nature, that's traumatic. Then if that discipline becomes physical, that is iheu. That is something from that realm where you send people you want to forget about. Okay. You don't do that, but this is the problem. Most people on earth were subjected to that. So they think daddy's finger is justice. That is not justice. So because of that, people think justice is traumatic, and this leads to two problems. One, when people are looking at ideas of justice, they only attach themselves to the bad ones. I talked about the Amadioha representation problem yesterday. This is part of what I'm talking about. Because was your justice as a child, you're looking for the bolt of thunder as the symbol of justice. Justice is not traumatic. You see, if you want to represent justice, represent the people when they've been repaired. Do not represent a crazy spirit scrambling to clean up a mess. At best, That is jungle justice. I'm not saying that there are not situations where people have to clean up a mess, but jungle justice is beyond a backup function. That is what happens, and I'll say it like this, when the gods signify on you. Okay, if adults have scattered the world so much, proper justice is not possible. So in its stead, they just send the thunderbolt to signify on you. That's what that is. You're that bad? All right. That's not justice in its full sense. And the way it gets represented, that's not justice at all. They haven't even showed the full picture. So when people are looking at ideas of justice, they look at the wrong thing. Then in real life, people call crime justice. I want to talk about my friends, the Republicans. There's been a lot of talk recently about ICE. What's the acronym? It's like the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Yes. You see, the Republicans are proponents of jungle justice. So they see crimes. You see, because there are many people who, at the hands of law enforcement, have wrong done to them, and the wrong is sensational. And again, I'm not saying that those situations are always clean. They're often messy. But that is not justice. But my friends, the Republicans, in this ICE situation, have been doing what they've been doing for years in the police situation, have been going in and saying, you know what, if you take 99% of the context out of the picture and look at this pixel, that looks like what daddy did to me as a child. Therefore, that is justice. No, that was a crime. That was trauma. That was immoral. That should not happen. I don't care how many people threw mud in different directions. Mars is not justice. The weeping and gnashing of teeth is not justice. Justice is not traumatic. Justice is beautiful. That was not beautiful. The recording should not have even been shown that extensively. You see, because people think justice is traumatic, people do not even know how to engage in the process of justice. Justice is a process. In the process of justice, some people do need to look at the crime, but you don't want to glorify the crime. There is a culture of showing crime everywhere. Even though some people have good intentions for showing it, it's not good if people just see crime without covering. And I'll leave it at that. Justice is a process, and that process is not traumatic. And then I last want to address some of the worst criminals. I'm not addressing them directly. I don't address such people directly, but I want to talk about that. You see, these people are in the situation where they must be signified on. Obviously, the signification must be just, but this signification can be painful. I'll give an example. If someone has committed the worst crime possible, what should happen? They should be put under house arrest, and that house arrest should be indefinite. That's very traumatic. So that is part of justice, but really that's also signification. Because what does it mean if someone had enough destiny to be born, and now they have to return to the proto-womb? It means they've squandered their destiny. So if we put you in the proto-womb after you squandered your destiny, that's not full justice. That is signification. And signification is there to let everyone know to stay away so that there's not more crime. But sometimes we talk to these people too much before they've repented. And because of that, we adopt their mind. And their mind says that, yes, I was wrong, even if they don't want to consciously admit it. I was wrong. I felt pain when I was signified on by the forces of justice. but therefore that's all of justice. And illogically, they encourage people to run from justice. This is, of course, injustice. And that is all. And once again, as an addendum onto this ending, before I take a break and then come back again, the justice I'm talking about is, of course, the justice of nature and the justice of morality. The justice of the leadership groups of the earth should follow this justice, but at the moment, it does not to a great degree. So obviously, I'm not just endorsing harmful policies, and I want to make that clear again. Thank you very much. Let me take my break. Abundogon. Abundogon. Thinking how to make the points the second time around. I think I want to use a different trajectory just to see if I can awaken additional pieces of knowledge. Yes. I think I'll begin now. I think the second time around might be more calm, but we'll see. You see, a lot of adults have not healed from childhood trauma. And the biggest childhood trauma people have, generally speaking, is being physically attacked by their caretakers. And this is the dominant mode of quote-unquote discipline in the world today. And most of the time, the caretaker is just wrong because they put the child in a bad situation. Children are not adults. People who take care of children say this all the time and then treat the child like some sort of evil adult. It doesn't make sense. Because a child is not an adult, you cannot expect them to react reasonably to be put in a bad situation. If a child is isolated, that is one of the worst situations. If a child is not constantly around their peers, they're isolated. If a child is by themselves, they're isolated. If a child is in the house and cannot freely enter and exit the house, they're isolated. Now, I understand sometimes a child might be in a bad situation. Maybe they're in a neighborhood where there's a lot of crime. So yes, in the moment, it might not be prudent for the child to go outside. But guess what? You have to apologize to your child. Because I said earlier that your child is not your peer, but they're still a person. So because of that, you can still level with them. You have to apologize. And sometimes when your child is not understanding, that is their signification. Because then when you zoom out, the child is still completely right. How did you born me in this situation? Now again, obviously the child's life is beautiful. Nothing takes that away. But you should have provided a better situation for them. And I'm not saying you can't get outside of that situation, but like it shouldn't have been there in the first place. So to then do things like punish your child and do it in the most evil way possible for running around the house or yelling or even things like the child doesn't want to wear the clothes you picked out for them. Your child is a person. Why are they merged with you? You see, a lot of adults are very lonely themselves, and they want to make the child their peer that they are with all the time. You see, there's many levels to this. There's many terms for it. I don't want to go too deep into the terminology because some of it is very dark. But your child is not your peer. No child is your peer. You are there to provide for them and make sure they're in a good situation. You are not there to use them as your dress-up doll. And then also there's this concept of my child embarrassed me. The elder who insults their child has insulted themselves. The elder who insults someone else's child should be put under house arrest. A child can never embarrass anyone. That is a child. If you tried to sit down the children like they were adults under your capture after a war conquest, and you're talking and one of them yells, the child did not embarrass anyone. All that happened is the ancestors got their message through. What are you doing? So we have all these traumas that are inflicted upon children called justice. So when people emerge as adults, and by the time someone is an adult, you can begin to hold them accountable for what's in their head. So that's where I begin now. When people emerge as adults, they have this idea that justice is traumatic. And there's spectrums of this belief. But the most extreme version of this belief is that justice must be traumatic. Let me make the point I'm making this time talking about the so-called prison system. There's this idea that the justice must be traumatic. And it's dovetailed with this idea that the people who are hurt will be gratified by inflicting pain upon the criminal. What is the people like do not know what is happening. If someone stole your wallet, putting them in a box will not get you your money back. Like you're just off. And justice is collective, and justice can take time. If justice is always instant, that is jungle justice. Everything happens right away in the jungle. That is why no proper people live there. Agwanyangu, the animal that is referred to as the lion, the solar cat. That is the king of the jungle, but that is not what that means. What that means is that when he's off, he's glorious, but the glory can be painful. You see, that is a madyoha. You see, a madyoha manifests most exactly in its completeness as the solar cat. But a madyoha is real, therefore there are flaws. One flaw of the solar cat is that when everything is crazy, he just goes like that. That is a form of ele. The king of the jungle is still correct in that situation, but his hand was not correct. You see, the king of the jungle likes to dole out justice with his voice. If he has to use his hand, he's not responsible for what the claw slashed. But see, when a parent is disciplining a child, they're the claw. You are responsible. All that's happened is a madyo is trying to reach into that situation. And because you've placed your child in a cocoon where you are God, you've become the errant claw of the king of the jungle. King, it's a sound. You can call a madyoha the king. It refers to the sound made when his sword slashes. You can also call it cha, shine. There's good and there's bad to that. But because justice is not traumatic, it does not always cha. It does not always explode. You will not always see the king. We want to see the king. And if you put the king everywhere, that is ihenshe kalakana. That is a Nshe version of the greatest man alive. That's not good. And that is what we have in the world today, because people have not accepted that they have been hurt. You see, in order to heal, you have to see your wound. You see, there's this idea in the world today, an idea that's unspoken, that every person can become God. Every person believes that every person can become God, but they believe they're the only person. What does this mean? They cannot have a flaw. They cannot have an injury. And because of that, they do not like justice. Because obviously when justice rears his head, something went wrong. But he's not traumatic. It could be something small. But if you tell justice, no, wait, that's not a cut, it'll explode into an earthquake. And by the time he has to deal with the fissure, you will see the king of the jungle. But then people try and blame Agwanyangu for the actions of the claw of the king of the jungle. No, you must go at the claw. And then you must wait for the fissure to repair, expand further. I think that's all for today. Thank you very much. See you next time. Patronize my business. Again, more urgently. I need help. Thank you.